Welcome to St. Cyr After Dark. No, I'm kidding. Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel, St. Cyr. Like, literally, welcome back. As some of you know, I have not uploaded a video to my channel in the past 2 weeks. Why? Well, with everything that's going on globally, I just needed to take some time to get myself together. I was experiencing mental health and emotional health triggers, to be quite honest with you, and it had me in a really bad spot. So I just needed to take that time to get myself together, and I did, and we are back. Now, first thing I want to say is shout out to Tiara Payton, one of my subscribers. She actually hit me up on Instagram like a few weeks ago asking if I would do a testimonial video. My testimonial is about me having type 1 diabetes. Now, I already know off rip, there are some of you who legitimately don't know the difference between type 1 diabetes and type 2 diabetes. You're just like, y'all just can't have sugar. First of all, yes we can, okay? Type 1 diabetics, in a nutshell, our pancreas does not work. It does not produce insulin, and if it does, it's not enough for our bodies to function. So with that, we are dependent on self-injections of man-made insulin. Now, I have two different ones that I use, right? This first one is basically like my base insulin. It's what I use to keep my insulin levels at, well, yeah, just keep my blood sugar at a pretty solid base level, right? And my second one is for when I eat. Now, naturally, when you eat carbs, it turns into sugar, which obviously if you're consuming sugar, your blood sugar levels will spike. Well, this right here, this one is to prevent that from happening, so that, you know, I can eat without worrying about my blood sugar levels spiking at or reacting in a negative way, right? So that is the realities of type 1 diabetes, right? Now, type 2 diabetes is a bit different, right? Their bodies, or their pancreas, I should say, does produce insulin, but for whatever reason, their body just needs help with responding to it, right? So their medication is totally different from our medication as type 1 diabetics. Now, type 1 diabetes is nicknamed juvenile diabetes, and that's just because, generally speaking, when you're diagnosed as a type 1, it's usually at a young age, like between the adolescent years and preteen years. I, on the other hand, wasn't diagnosed until I was 21, literally. So it's by the grace of God that I'm still here today, literally, because what one of my doctors explained to me is that I was going along all these years, well, up until I was 21, with a reservoir of insulin in my body. Now, she doesn't know why, but what I would assume is that my pancreas was working at birth, right? And then probably for a few years after that, and then it just stopped. So the amount that it was producing during that time, it was enough for my body to basically be taking withdrawals from it until I got to 21, and I was pretty much depleted. I began experiencing a lot of symptoms that, I mean, at the time I had no idea that was related to diabetes, but as you know, after I got diagnosed and they were asking all these questions, and it's like, yep, definitely, yep, right? And in a later time, I'm gonna do a video listing out different symptoms of diabetes. So it's like, yo, if you have any of these things, if you have more than one of these things, yeah, you might want to go to the doctor and make sure you are okay, because this isn't something that you want to go undiagnosed, and I almost did. By the time I got diagnosed, my blood sugar levels were, I don't remember the exact number, but it was like 610, right? 610. Now, any of you who are familiar with the world of diabetes are literally clutching your pearls right now, because you know the average healthy person blood sugar levels ranged from like 70 to 120. So literally, when I was officially diagnosed, which was by accident, I was literally on the brink at any moment of going into a diabetic coma. I went into the campus health center because one of the symptoms is really weird and really specific, right? And it's like, if you could be grown, right? Welcome to Saint Sea After Dark. It was like really weird down there, right? And I'll be completely honest with you. At that point in time, I was sexually active. I'm not anymore, but at that time I was. And even though I was using protection, y'all, condoms are only 98% effective. Okay, so in that moment, I was like, am I part of that 2%? Right? Like, I was losing it, okay? And so immediately, I set up an appointment with the health center to get tests done, okay? So, and the funny thing is, like, I remember the lady at the front desk, she asked, you're like, oh, well, do you want to take these tests or only these tests? Like, which ones do you want to do? And in my head, I'm like, what? Girl, all of them. What do you mean? Like, but in hindsight, I understand because, I mean, she didn't know what my pockets were looking like, so, but, yeah, all of them. So, I got all of them done, and the nurse that, oh my god, the nurse who was administering all of my tests, thank God for her, that she was just, I don't know, not only that she knew what she was doing, but she was paying close attention to what she was doing. So in the urinalysis test that I had taken, she noticed ketones, a lot of ketones in my urine. And you know, ketones is something that as a diabetic you have to be mindful of, and I'm not going to go too heavy in explaining ketones right now. I'm going to do it in the other video that I make regarding symptoms. However, it's not something that needs to be in your urine, and if it is, it's a problem. And she noticed a lot of it, so she took it upon herself to first run a ketone test, and then after that she ran like a blood glucose test by, you know, pricking my finger and testing the blood. And as she's doing that, she's asking me different questions about like my family health history, including if diabetes runs in it. Now, I was totally oblivious to why she was asking me these questions. I was just answering, and to my knowledge at that point in time, it did not, right? So that's what I said. So she's like, okay, girl, you know, she's just going along. And so she leaves out, and when she comes back in, she comes back with the physician, and they close the door. And I was just like, what y'all doing? What y'all closing doors for? Right? So he comes in and he sits across from me, and he's talking about a whole bunch of different stuff about blood sugar. And I'm just like, I didn't come here for that, sir. Do you have some test results for me? And he did, in fact. And, well, not really, actually. He explained to me my blood sugar levels was so high that their machine at the campus health center couldn't even read it. Their machine couldn't even read my blood sugar levels. That's why it was like so crucial. They closed the doors and was like serious face, right? At the time, I didn't really know much about the disease, and so I didn't understand the seriousness of it. And there were times where he literally was asking, okay, so do you want to call your mom? And I was just like, no, for what? You know what I'm saying? And they were just like, all right, well, we need you to go to the emergency room tonight to get you hooked up to some fluid, some IV, some insulin to bring your levels down, because it's at a very dangerous level. And again, I'm still kind of oblivious, and I'm just like, okay, cool. I didn't have a car at the time, so I was just like, I'll have my roommates take me, and it's all good. And the doctor was like, not so much. What, sweetheart? What he explained to me is he did not want to take the risk of me going to my apartment, and for whatever reason, my roommate's not being able to take me that night, and it's just like, oh yeah, we can take you in the morning. And I go into a coma that night, right? So he's like, we have to get you really escorted by campus police to take you to, like, right now, right? And it was kind of in that moment where it really like just clicked in my head, and in true dramatic fashion, I just burst into tears that moment. Like, it was just over then, and then I was like, can we call my mom? And they're like, yeah, of course. I couldn't talk though at that time. I was like hysterically crying, and so they're on the phone with her and they explain to her what's going on. She hops in a car, zoom, 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 from Atlanta to Carrollton. She meets me at the emergency room. Now, that experience at that specific emergency room was awful, only because I was in a hospital for 6 hours. Why? I still don't know. And a part of it why it was awful was because I just feel like they didn't know what they were doing. One, being honest, because the doctor in the emergency room asked me, again, does diabetes run in your family? At that point in time, I didn't know that it did, so I said no. So he was just like, okay, well, since it doesn't run in your family, you're type 2 diabetic, and I'm going to prescribe you these pills. I was not type 2 diabetic, and those pills were not helping me. They were hurting me, actually. Had me sick as a dog every single day. So that's one reason why it was just awful. Another reason, he asked me, so what made you go to the health center? And I explained to them, you know, I went to go get tested because of one of the symptoms I was experiencing. And he was like, okay, well, we're gonna run the tests, those same tests again. And the fact that you are taking those tests, and you probably need to take a pregnancy test too. I'm like, what? Huh? Okay, I suppose. Y'all, they ended up using a catheter. A catheter. And at the time, I didn't know what that was until they explained to me what was about to happen. And then on top of that, they had a student from the nursing school, and granted, she was about to graduate, but I don't care. They had her to administer it. And no shade to sis. I hope you're doing well in life right now. I'm so serious, but why did I have to be... No, I had a problem with that. So I'm hooked up to IV, sticking a catheter. Like, it was just too much going on that night. It was just awful. So, you know, fast forward, that was 3 years ago, and I'm still adjusting in my life. But it's a mental adjustment that you have to take, because there are certain things that you're used to doing that you can't do, right? Like, I was just now at the point where I could buy my own wine, and at that time I loved the super sweet and fruity wine. I had to give that up, y'all, and so I had to transition from white wine to red wine, and now I love red wine. I do. But I'll be honest, being diabetic is extremely annoying. It is, because and it's probably super annoying to me just because, like, I'm kind of lazy, and it's just so many steps I have to take just to eat, just to live. So many things I have to do, and it's annoying, but you know, that's just what it is. At the same time though, as annoying as it is, it's not a death sentence. It can be. Like, if you don't take it seriously, if you don't do what you're supposed to do, it very well can be. And I'll be honest, in these 3 years, there were 2 instances where it almost was. And I'll upload another video where I'll explain to you all that a time where I developed ketoacidosis, which landed me in the ICU. And granted, I only had to spend 1 night there, but that's pretty major. And then even after that 1 night, they still wouldn't let me leave the hospital. I had to stay in the hospital for the remainder of the week because my blood had gotten too toxic, because my blood sugar was so high. So yeah, it's not anything to play around with at all. But at the same time, it is manageable. Just take your medicine properly, have a healthy diet, a fairly healthy diet, right? And exercise. And to be real, we need to be doing that anyway, for the health of our bodies and for our bodies to stay right and tight. Okay? So it's hard, it's annoying, absolutely, but we're not allowing this disease, like us diabetics, we're not allowing this disease to have us in no box or to be limited. Like, that's a wrap. That's no, we're out here. we out here. Holla at your girl. Y'all know I'm corny. But what I will say, and this is the last thing, this really was like a blessing in disguise, because if you recall, like I said, when I was getting diagnosed, I didn't know that it ran in my family, and that's because it ran on my dad's side. And at that point in time, I didn't know my dad, right? So this disease was literally the catalyst of us meeting and creating a relationship. And when I tell y'all that in these 3 years, I've literally become a daddy's girl, like, I am so close with my dad. We're like two peas in a pod. Literally, our personalities are so similar. It's ridiculous. Sometimes my mom just looks at me and just be like, can you go away? I'm just like, girl, never mind. I'll leave that alone. I'll leave that alone. But anyway, yeah, so he and I are two peas in a pod. Can't wait for y'all to have him on here, because he's also a trip, y'all, just like me, but it's okay. So yeah, that is my testimony. I'm type 1 diabetic, but I'm still here, and I am, you know, ooh, y'all, God really had me all those years, and I'm so thankful. Can't nobody tell me that he's not real and that he's not faithful, period. But y'all hit me up. Let me know what y'all's testimonies are, because there's some of y'all that are walking around with some miracles under your belt that someone could really be blessed with. Somebody needs to hear and needs to know. So y'all hit me up and share your testimonies with me. And also don't forget to hit like, comment, subscribe, and of course turn on your post notifications, because we're back. We're back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. Welcome back. I know I'm offbeat. It's okay. Y'all have a good day. Have a good night. Adios.